talk about digestive wellness, solving the puzzle. You notice the first 3 words? To heal leaky gut and create microbiome wellness. We have a model in which for this, take that. That model does not work for these problems. Instead, we have to solve the puzzle, and we'll be learning what that means. So people ask me, well, who's Dr. Gerhart? And there's letters after my name, and that's what they mean. In reality, probably the most important thing is, do I listen, do I care, and do I know how to help people? I describe myself as a holistic doctor because people come to me with a whole long list, as long as my arm usually, of problems. And we need to move beyond symptoms to figure out why. The most recent book, Living Free of Dementia, the scariest word in America is no longer cancer, it's Alzheimer's. And I can tell you, we can live free of dementia when we solve the puzzle and we do the work of therapeutic lifestyle change, TLC. So in America, we tend to view problems like a weed. The top half of the weed are the symptoms. Somebody may have inflammatory bowel disease, Crohn's, ulcerative colitis, irritable bowel syndrome. They may have constipation, leaky gut. For this problem, you take X-Lax, right? For this problem, you take something else, maybe a biologic. And we treat parts of the weed. So imagine pulling leaves off a weed. You treat that effectively. Does that deal with what's causing it, the root? In this model, we need to work beyond symptoms to what are the roots. Let's see, I'm not quite sure why there. Does treating symptoms work? I love the cartoon. The name of the ship is called the USS Disease. And the first mate is telling the captain, great news, Captain. You can inform the passengers we have slowed the rate of sinking. Does that work? We've softened the blow when we hit the bottom of the ocean. Or how about this one? Mom, how does my digestive system work? Good at your age, bad at my age, and at your father's age, forget about it. What about this one? The doctor says the problem is keeping things down. I want you to take this one pill 4 times a day. Humor is healing. Or this one I love. I've been a flatulence analyst, that is gas, abdominal gas or bowel gas, for 15 years. I'll quit when it stops being fun. So what does our gut need to work well? Some of you have been in past classes. What does our digestive system, sometimes called second brain, need to work well? The word doctor in Latin means teacher. Some of you know this answer.
Enzymes.
Yes, and even to make those, it's the E word. It starts with E, N.
Energy?
Yes, energy. Thank you. Nice job. Our digestive system needs energy, energy, energy to work well. So, where do we make energy? In the mitochondria. Where are the mitochondria? In every cell of our body. And we make energy, energy, energy when we're over here. Lots of energy is ATP, very few harmful free radicals. That is high-level energy, health, wellness, free of digestive, brain, body, inflammation, all of that. Over here, not enough energy for healing and repair. The lining of your gut's replaced every 48 hours. Guess what? We need energy to do that properly. Stomach acid. You need enormous energy to make stomach acid. Stomach acid is below pH 2. That's like battery acid. Takes enormous energy to concentrate the hydrogen ion to get there. If you're not making energy, you're making fat and free radicals. And they create inflammation, and that damages the gut. So gut problems are too much damage and not enough repair. Remember, the gut's continually renewing itself. So our mitochondria, we have up to 10,000 of those per cell in the brain, retina, heart. The second brain of the gut is close behind that. So imagine that. 10,000 of those per microscopic cell in some tissues. And they talk to our microbiome. The newest definition of wellness, wellness is balance. The newest definition is wellness is a happy mitochondria and happy microbiome. When those are working, you live high-level wellness free of disease for life. Happy mitochondria, we just looked at those. And then what's the microbiome? Who's heard that word before? Who knows what it means? And that includes me. My hand is not up. We're learning about this a lot as we go. So, to have a healthy gut, sometimes called the second brain, we must have a healthy first brain. Why? The first brain signaling controls so much of what happens here. And it's a two-way street. You can't have a happy brain without a happy second brain. In working with patients with dementia, Alzheimer's type, Parkinson's, Lewy body, vascular dementia or white matter disease, and the list, what we find is we cannot help somebody become healthy here if we don't work with that brain. Dr. David Perlmutter, one of my mentors in this area, he spends most of his time now helping people with Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, bipolar, and the list, working with that brain in order to help this brain. So in this second brain in the gut, we've heard the term leaky gut. So what happens is, this is our digestive tube, like small intestine, large intestine. This is the inside of it, technically is outside the body. Our mouth to the anus is technically outside. And what separates it from the bloodstream is a lining. How thick do you think that lining is? Thickness of your eyelid. You touch your eyelid, 1 cell thick. And then that 1 cell thick lining has tight junctions. These prevent leaking. Do you want the poopy, stinky stuff going into the toilet leaking into your bloodstream? No. And that is protected by, that's normal, that's a faulty tight junction. It's been damaged. By the way, what food group creates leaky gut in everybody who eats it every meal they eat it? That's the celiac research has shown us this now.
Sugar? Gluten?
Gluten, gluten, gluten. Now people say it doesn't affect me. Well, maybe they heal up again. Then they turn 30, or they have high stress, or turn 40, and now it doesn't work anymore. The Fasano and his group, and others around the world now have confirmed it. Leaky gut is created every time you put gluten in your mouth, chew it and swallow it. So that's a big deal. Now, those toxins go through, and where's the bloodstream? Right there. So we leak right into the bloodstream. So leaky gut creates inflammation. Those toxins in the bloodstream light us on fire. So think of stomach issues, gastritis, colitis, enteritis, that's inflammation of the small intestine. Help me out. Irritable bowel inflammation, inflammatory bowel disease. I mean, like Crohn's and ulcerative colitis. All those itises are inflammation. That's the greatest enemy of your brain, body, gut. Chronic inflammation equals chronic disease for the most part. Americans are one of the highest in the world in chronic disease. In 2014, 60% of Americans, that includes younger Americans, had at least one inflammatory condition. You can see the list. 42% had more than one, 12% had more than 5. Colitis, Crohn's, infection, injuries, psoriasis. You ever see those annoying ads on TV for psoriasis? Some of those medications are up to $5,000 a month. $3,000 a month is common on some of the biologics. Eye disorders, asthma, dry eyes, irritated, inflamed, allergies, heart disease, cancer, arthritis. Arthritis is not wear and tear getting old. It's too much inflammation. It's chronic disease of inflammation. Obesity is related. Chronic kidney disease. These are all related to excessive inflammation. So, what happens we've heard the term stress, and let me just jump ahead a slide here. This will make it easier. Well, maybe not. Let's go ahead 2 slides. So, inflammation is controlled by our lower brain, the automatic brain centers, via the yellow nerves. They're called the sympathetic nerves. They're our fight or flight response. And the green nerves, which are calm and peaceful, healing and repair, digest and detox. So which nerves do you need properly activated? Which color if you want healthy digestion? The green ones. So now let's go back. Remember, the yellow ones are the stress response. So yellow ones are a big deal if they're excessive. So what happens when a tiger is hunting us? We're being chased by the tiger. Our sympathetic, the yellow nerves go really high. Our blood pressure goes up. Our blood sugar elevates. Inflammation goes way up. Clotting response goes up. And what happens to digestion? It turns off. So, if you're upset over the news or some silly thing some politician said, or hearing about something, whatever, or you're worried about the IRS, or you're worried about, who knows, there's always something to be worried about. And you're in the stress response, and you're sitting down to eat a meal, how well does that work? Or try eating after you've just had a fight. Digestion's off. You can have the perfect food. It's not just what you eat, it's how you eat. If the green nerves aren't turned on, you will not digest. Partially digested food is toxic, and it induces inflammation. So that stress response is wonderful. If you're in the crosswalk and there's a big truck barreling down to run you over, that engages so you can quickly sprint out of the crosswalk, whether you're a sprinter or not. How long is that response designed to last? What is it? Designed for minutes. 20 minutes, 30 minutes, maybe 40 minutes. What happens if we get scared? We've had a major trauma. We've had a loss. We've had grief. There's many things. We've had a head injury. Been in a fender bender and it rattled our brain. Concussion. That response can go on for not minutes, but days, weeks, months, years. I've seen it decades. When that goes on for decades, remember that inflammation, chronic disease stuff, that happens. So the yellow nerves are the go mode, our fight or flight. When they're activated, we're in the crisis emergency mode. Anybody know people that struggle with anxiety? Everything's a crisis. Now this can happen on the inside. I have people, I have no stress at all. Everything's great. I'm watching their foot go like this, their hands go like that. I can feel their anxiety bubble off their skin, bouncing around the walls of the room. They're not aware they're anxious, but they are. Because we can have stress on the inside and not always be aware of it on the outside as well. Most of our brain is subconscious. Like the iceberg, most of it's underwater. And less than 1% is above water. So the parasympathetic nervous system is critically important. If you're going to heal a digestive problem, this must work right. Non-optional, because it turns on digest and rest, healing, repair, calm and peaceful. It dials down inflammation. It creates immune tolerance. Anybody heard of food allergy? You create that with too much. One thing they'll do is too much yellow, not enough green, because the green turns on immune tolerance. Anybody heard of autoimmune disease, where you attack yourself? Too much yellow, not enough green over time. Okay. So these are some tools we use for rebalancing the brain. Types of spinal adjusting where we can actually activate the part of the brain that turns on the green nerves. Acupuncture can be wonderful. Healing lasers are one of my favorites. Massage, body work can be helpful. Yoga, learned relaxation. Who has a meditation practice? It is so important for healing and health. Now, people tell me, well, I can't meditate. Okay. Taking a deep breath. Let's do this together. Feel your breath come in through your nose. Feel it come out through your mouth. Do that 2 more times. In through your nose, feel it, and out through your mouth. Blow it out. 1 more time. And out. You just did a meditation. Meditation means to become aware of. Same root word as medicate. You're medicating your brain nervous system when you do that. And just breathing, and you can do a mini 7-breath mini meditation. You can do a 3-minute. Just keep it simple and gradually build up. Focus on your breathing. Be aware of it. Headspace.com is one of my favorites for people who struggle with meditation. Just an elegant, easy way to learn meditation. Space.com out of Great Britain. Okay, we talked about lasers. That's a way to treat the first brain and the second brain at the same time. Yes, it is used for animals as well. And that's a different kind of laser that treats the whole bloodstream. I use that one daily. So, we're going to need to dispel with some myths. So there was a myth that the earth is flat, right? Another myth is that germs are bad. And I'll show you why. This is what we've been told. Germs are bad. Use antimicrobial everything. Kill those blankety germs, right? And when in doubt, use an antibiotic. And even better, double the dose and use it continuously. Does that work? Well, the first thing is Rob Dunn he's really an eminent biologist and part of key research on people from all around the country and world send him samples. He said, now kids, they'll swab like the inside of the water heater or your shower head, the inside, and they analyze the microbes that are there. In his book, and by the way, National Public Radio has his interview in NPR, Never Home Alone, Rob Dunn. It is fascinating. You'll never see the world again, the same again. Basically, the natural history of where we live. This ceiling is coated with microbes. Your chair is, the carpet is, this tabletop is, even that hot bulb is coated with microbes. Inside a hot water heater has microbes like you find in Yellowstone. In your freezer, it's coated with microbes, the kind you find up north. Everything. So our skin, the armpit area has about 10 million microbes, bacteria, fungi, yeast, bacteria, fungi, viruses. When we talk about the microbiome, mostly bacteria, but some viruses, some yeast as well. In our skin, most of our skin is about 2 million bacteria per centimeter. Centimeter is about a half-inch square. But we have different microbes in the armpit area versus the skin versus the face, in the nose, and everything's coated in microbes. Has anybody been in a rainforest? I've had a chance in Indonesia, and then I spent a couple weeks in the Amazon of South America. And I can tell you it's alive with life. So is everything around us. We're just not aware of it. So our walls, floors, counters, shower heads, your water faucet, the sink, it's coated with microbes in there. So what is our largest organ?
Skin.
I heard skin, yes. Actually, if we want to call it a barrier, the mucus layer is 160 times the size of our skin. The mucus covers the inside of our intestines and our nose and our sinuses and our throat and the vaginal area and all of that. And that mucus area is covered in microbes also, as is our skin. But the largest organ by number of cells, by far, is the microbiome. 100 trillion cells. There are more microbes, remember bacteria, viruses, and yeast than there are human cells. We are the minority. And this works great because our microbiome wants to be our friend if we treat it properly. Our blood, we used to think the blood's sterile, right? No, it's got about 5,500,000 microbes in a typical bloodstream. You know, the typical, 2.5 liters. Cerebrospinal fluid, in your spinal cord and around the brain, that has its own microbiome. Its own collection family of bacteria and viruses and yeast. So what we're learning is we are not just Homo sapiens. Homo sapien is obviously, that's the species, human. We are not Homo sapiens, just. We are really a complex rainforest, a holobiome of thousands of micro microbiome communities. You have a different one on your eyes than you do in your sinuses, than you do in your nose, than you do in your throat, than you do in your skin. Your stomach has its own microbiome. When it's healthy, you do not have stomach cancer problems. So does the large intestine, small intestine, rectal area. They're all different. It's remarkable. Your lung has a microbiome. Your bladder, chronic bladder irritation, can often be the result of that microbiome being disturbed. So we have trillions of microbes covered in a human shell. That's as one researcher puts it. And I thought that was elegant. This is an MD, PhD researcher in the microbiome. We are tons of microbes covered in a human shell. And I would change that. We are trillions of microbes, right, covered in a human shell. So, do you want to kill all the bugs? We could not survive that way. And we'll go into even more. So, remember we showed you the leaky gut? This is the inside of the colon. That's the actual colon. This is a lab animal. We don't have many humans that let us cut them open to do a section. Guess what this is? This is a protective barrier. Anybody want to guess what that is? That is the mucus lining, mucus layer. In the picture I'll show you it'll be blue, but they stained it green here. And these are remember the cells on the inside? That lining, and then the bloodstream's right beyond it. So good fences make good neighbors. So this is the fence that keeps the microbes from going into our bloodstream. You see how that works? Good fences make good neighbors. So, in essence, we have a rainforest living in us and on us. That is a healthy tropical rainforest. I had a chance to spend 2 weeks in the Amazon of Colombia a number of years back with the Macu, a Stone Age tribe that had no written language. I can tell you, in flying over the rainforest, getting in there in a little bush plane, it seems like it goes on forever. It is a remarkable place. That's what happens to a rainforest when we cut it down or burn it down. And so that's what happens when you use an antibiotic. One pill, one capsule of an antibiotic kills 99% of the gut microbiome. The researchers call it napalming the microbiome. Napalm is that jelly gasoline bombs they use in Vietnam to burn everything down. You burn that sucker down to the ground when we do that. The standard American diet does this. The SAD diet is low in what? Fiber. Guess what feeds the microbiome? Fiber. I would suggest that the current understanding is one of our top essential nutrients is fiber. Why? Not just to keep your bowels regular. Yes, it's good for that, but it feeds the microbiome. Let me show you why that's important. If you're not getting enough fiber to keep these guys happy, guess what they eat? They eat this away, and then they start digesting this. So if we don't feed our microbiome with fiber, we're going to have all sorts of itis problems. We're going to light the fire of inflammation. So antibiotics, sanitation, baby formula, C-sections. By the way, babies that have C-sections have much higher rates of eczema, asthma, all these autoimmune diseases. Vaginal birth seeds the microbiome from the mother, seeds the rainforest. Don't mess with Mother Nature. We do way too many C-sections, and it really harms our kids. Second is, baby formula is a disaster for this. Mother's milk is designed perfectly for the rainforest. It's not just fiber, it's microbial, accessible carbohydrates. Those are types, MACs. They're types of fiber that feed this. Guess what the baby formula is really high in? Those MACs that feed this, the type of fiber. So I'll give you examples of these fibers as we go. Is anybody bored? This is awesome stuff. In the biomedical fields, this is the area where research is exploding. They're pretty much giving up and trying to find a drug for Alzheimer's. The big companies are pulling out. Cancer, we've been doing the same old stuff that doesn't work. This is where it's at now, the microbiome and all the things related. So that gut lining, remember leaky gut, is ground zero for chronic disease. Here's the short list. Allergies, asthma, eczema, psoriasis. You know anybody that has those? Anxiety, autism, autoimmune disease. And autoimmune disease, 90% of all thyroid is autoimmune. If you have thyroid problems, it's probably autoimmune. It's probably linked to your gut and microbiome. Then we're talking about chronic fatigue, obesity. It's 2020, in just a couple months. 2030, it's projected will be at 50% obese in America. 50% obesity. That is just, that is wrong in many ways. Diabetes, depression, metabolic syndrome, cancer. Many types of cancer are linked to this now. One of the tribes in Venezuela, again, part of the Amazon, that they found that for thousands of years has not had processed foods or antibiotics, all of this. They don't have cancer, they don't have diabetes, they don't have Alzheimer's, they don't have heart disease, they don't have any of this stuff. Our chronic diseases are related to our processed foods and how we've been chemically damaging our environment. GERD, IBS, Crohn's, obviously. And then this brain neurodegeneration. That's another course. But what's the fastest growing cause of death in America? I didn't say problem. I said death. It's neurodegenerative disease. Alzheimer's is the top part of that. Parkinson's, MS, vascular dementia, they're all in epidemic levels right now. And so microbiome by the numbers. So this one is amazing. Well, let's go to our next slide. The universe within. The cosmos is within. That was Carl Sagan. I would suggest if we take that, we know more about the universe out there than we do about the universe within. Isn't that interesting? So what harms the microbiome? Antibiotics, we talked about, herbicides, pesticides. If you're doing pest control, what kind do you want to do? To be safe for your pets, kids, grandkids, and your microbiome. Organic pest control. About everybody has it. Burns has it. Arizona Organic takes care of our home. What about using all these bleach-based and these toxic house cleaners? What we now know is cleaning with Castile soap and vinegar and lemon and some essential oils does a great job, and it keeps the microbiome in balance. What they found is if on your kitchen surfaces or these faucet things, if you use these nasty toxic cleaners, guess what you kill? You kill the beneficial microbes. Guess what grows back? The really dangerous harm ones. So in essence, it's all about balance. Think of it like weeds. In the rainforest, we have healthy plants that keep what could become weeds in balance, so they're not an issue. But if you burn down the rainforest, what grows back first? Weeds. So every time we're exposed to an antibiotic or these toxic things, we damage the microbiome and it grows back. But each time it grows back, more of a weed patch, until finally you have a severe weed patch and you're sick. Fluoride, chlorine. Do you want to drink chlorinated water? No. What about fluoride? Fluoride is a nasty toxin. Do not drink it. Do not put it in your mouth. My previous dentist recommended fluoride. I ended that relationship. I do not tolerate that. The dentist I have now is a biologic dentist, and they completely understand that. They would never suggest fluoride because they know that is silly in regards to the big picture. Chemotherapy. Many of our drugs damage the microbiome. Processed dead food. We'll go into that in a bit, but I call it dead food in a coffin. Dead food is what? Boxes, cans, plastic. We need living food, the live stuff. Fiber deficiency. And what about food diversity? See, that Amazon tribe that I was with, they did it was about a 60-mile trek through the forest through the year. Different seasons, there are different areas. The plants, berries, herbs come or ripen or they're ready at different times. They ate about 600 different foods through the year. created diversity. Their microbiome changes during the year to fit the food groups they're eating. What about America? Most of us are about 15 foods. So eat diversity. And we'll talk about that. So, I love this cartoon. If I knew what those trillions of bacteria wanted, I'd give it to them. What do they want? They want fiber. So the human genome, in terms of genes, first thing is, how many genes do we have as humans? Anybody have a sense? It's about 20,000. Back when they were doing the research, they estimated, doing the genome project, there would be north of 100,000, because we need genes or blueprints to make proteins for body parts, enzymes, signaling molecules, that kind of thing. We only have 20,000. That didn't make sense. Now we know the microbiome has genes. How many genes do they have? About 2 million. So that's about 1%, that's 99%. So think of you have a laptop computer and the hard drive's not big enough for everything. You have an external hard drive to store all the pictures, all those things. This is our external hard drive of 2 million genes. Is that remarkable or what? So we need those genes for our bodies to work right. So when we have 100 and 150 grams of fiber, that's what these tribes in the Amazon and our ancestors ate. That's a lot of fiber. Our genes of the microbiome and human genome are fit, and we do not have chronic disease. Now, if you go down to 35 grams, now it doesn't fit right. We don't have enough genes in the microbiome anymore for that to work. Average Americans at 15 grams of fiber. Way down here. Is that a problem? Yeah. The fast food is not working. So let's look at an example. So fiber. We have 17 human genes for digesting fiber. Only 17. The microbiome has how many genes to digest fiber? 100,000. So when we eat cake, those 17 human genes, they work for cake. So we eat cake, they digest up here, and it goes right into our bloodstream and raises our blood sugar. What does that do? It creates inflammation, and it makes us fat. It creates diabetes when we keep doing that. If you eat broccoli, it doesn't digest at all up here. It goes down to the colon, where most of our microbiome is at. And now it's broken down into all sorts of health-promoting compounds. It's like a natural drugstore, pharmacy of everything you need. When you look at the compounds, and we're just starting to study them, it looks like a drugstore. It's incredible, but healthy stuff. It makes things like short-chain fatty acids that turn off diabetes and turn the switch within the cell, so we burn carbs to make energy instead of making them into fat. That switch, CMP kinase in the cell, is activated by the breakdown products. So has anybody heard the term postbiotics? We've heard the term prebiotics would be fiber, and then probiotics would be like lactobacillus and things like that. And then postbiotics are what the microbiome makes from fiber and foods. They feed us. They make us well. They're really important. We can't be healthy without them. So we have outsourced our fiber digestion to our microbes. Isn't that interesting? Do we want them healthy? Yeah. Okay, so what's America's drug of choice? The number one drug problem in America. And it's devastating to our gut. Anybody want to guess? Number one drug problem?
Antibiotics.
Antibiotics are a problem. What's that drug? Sugar. It leads to more death and suffering than all of our other drugs put together. Sugar. And we consume it at drug-like levels. Our ancient ancestors, about 3.5 pounds of sweeteners per year. Americans are over 150 pounds a year. That's a drug. So, case against sugar and how it harms the brain. By the way, many of the processed grains that we eat convert right to sugar. 2 slices of whole wheat bread have the same effect as 6 teaspoons of pure sugar. And so that is Mr. Benzie. He's our puppy, and he eats the way we're talking. Lots of fiber. 25% of his raw food is organic vegetables. And since he's been a puppy. So let's stand and take a, let's check on something else that we do. Everybody, let's stand for a moment. Too much sitting is obviously not good for our gut or health. So what is it that we do 23,000 times a day that has a profound effect on our health? Breathe. Very good. So there's something called vertical breathing. So everybody taking a deep breath. Okay, now, if your chest goes up like that, that's stressful breathing. That turns on the stress response. We want horizontal breathing, which means my gut goes sideways. Everything expands like a barrel at the midsection. And so it looks like this. It looks like this. We go. So take a deep belly breath. Expand the whole section. Good. So we're going to let's do a couple of relaxed breathing. It's called the box breathing. We'll breathe in on a count of 4. Hold count of 4. Breathe out to count of 4. Hold air out 4, and then repeat. Let's do it together. In. Hold. Breathe out. Hold. And again. Hold. Breathe out. And hold. Good. Go ahead and grab a seat. When would be a good time to do this breathing?
As many times as you can.
Yes. Now, in particular, if you want to help digestion, when would you do this breathing?
After eating or after we eat?
Before your meal. Because this breathing turns on the green nerves. Do you want digestion turned on neurologically? Do you want blood flow to the gut? Do you want stomach acid enzymes turned on? Gut motility? The whole thing. So relaxing like this, I try to make a practice of doing this or something like it before each meal. And by the way, our mangy mutts are really healthy for the microbiome. Dogs are wonderful. When kids raised in families with dogs have less asthma and autoimmune disease than those that don't. In fact, the research shows The Good Gut is an excellent book, The Good Gut by 2 researchers from Stanford. What they've shown that, with raising kids, when the pacifier drops on the ground, if you sterilize it versus mother licks it and gives it to the baby, when mother licks it and gives it to the baby has less asthma and autoimmune disease versus sterilizing. We're learning that we don't want to overdo this sterilizing stuff. So prebiotics, remember we talked about fibers, healthy fibers, asparagus, yams, onions, garlic, bananas, leeks, chicory, root vegetables, leafy greens, fresh stuff. You notice most of this doesn't come in cans, and at least it comes fresh. Okay, and then another great one is chia seeds. 11 grams of fiber per ounce. It's one of the highest you can have. It is awesome. It's also 95% insoluble. By the way, it's great as an egg replacer in baking. Insoluble fiber keeps your digestive tract moving and critical for colon health. Why? What eats this fiber? Well, the microbiome. It munches on the fiber, otherwise it munches on you. It's linked to lower risk of diabetes and all sorts of things. So this is the breakfast of champions. It's not Wheaties. No surprise. 1/4 to 1/2 cup of chia seeds. This is what I had this morning. Cup of hot water. I get that at Costco. Cinnamon, sea salt. Today was blueberries. You can add whatever. And today I used hazelnut milk. And that's an excellent breakfast. And that sticks to your ribs. And it feeds the microbiome. So more high fiber ideas. Sesame, hemp, whole veggies. So Do not do juicing. What's the problem with juicing? What have we removed?
Fiber.
The fiber. Actually, tongue in cheek, I say, if you're going to juice, that's fine. Throw away the juice and eat the fiber. And even better, keep it all together. So we just use a blender instead of juicing. Avocados are great, all sorts of things, legumes. And the skins on apples, cucumbers, sweet potatoes, they are fiber. Eat variety. Remember we said eat seasonally. Variety is the spice of life. And by the way, spices are really good for the microbiome also. So let's name some veggies. Let's have some fun. So we want to eat new and different veggies. So you go to Sprouts, go to Whole Foods, and that each time you go, you get something new and different. So give me some ideas. Veggies. Let's do veggie names. I'll start it off. Dandelion greens. They're awesome. Do I know how to cook them? No. Do I know what they taste like? No. Do I care? No. I throw them in the blender, grind them up, and they're part of my smoothie. So dandelion greens. Anybody want to help me? Some other vegetables? Asparagus, spinach, bok choy, radish sprouts, broccoli sprouts, Swiss chard, and then beets with the beet tops. Collards, excellent. Parsnips, excellent. I threw one in this past week in my blender, and I'll show it to you. And then there's cilantro, the herb bunch. You can get thyme, you can get parsley. I just throw them in the blender. Not only are the fiber, but they are phytonutrients, polyphenols that talk to our genes. Eat color, eat spices, we're designed to. So a lot of new and different, and then avoid pesticides. The number one reason to go organic is to minimize our pesticides that we're eating that harm the microbiome. Yes, they harm the brain, but they really harm the microbiome, which affects the brain. Okay, why does that matter? When the microbiome is diverse and healthy, think rainforest, what does it do? Does this sound important? It signals appetite control. You're not always craving. It balances brain function, mood. It improves insulin resistance, so we become lean. Dieting doesn't work. What are the first three letters of diet? Instead, let's fix metabolism, fix the microbiome. When this works right, the microbiome eats many of our calories and converts it to good stuff. Is that remarkable or what, when you think about that? Repairs leaky gut. Remember, the microbiome makes things that repair those tight junctions, reduces inflammation, and it's critical for the immune system. 75% of our immune system's where? In the gut. So, how do we boost diversity? Here are some supplements. I use these when somebody comes to me with an inflamed gut. These are three that I'll often consider. There's a list of things we may need. The best way to think of food is the less your food has been doctored, the less you need a doctor. Eat fresh stuff. Do we need perfect? No. Do I eat things out of cans or boxes on occasion? Yes. But most of it is fresh. So, eat from the food pyramid. Now, many of us get this kind of backwards. We eat a lot of fruit and not many vegetables. What's the foundation? Lots of vegetables. Meat, grass-fed beef is a health food, but don't overdo it. Eat more vegetables than meat. We hear of healthy fats, and there are, but eat more vegetables than healthy fats. Nuts, seeds, what are some nut seeds? Okay, but remember, what did we just talk about? Chia seeds, hemp seeds, flax seeds. Then you can do almonds and cashews and macadamias, hazelnuts, but do not do peanuts. Peanuts aren't on that list. That's bad news for multiple reasons. Just had a patient, got really sick and spent last night throwing up in diarrhea because of a peanut experiment. And then healthy oils, and fruit is the smallest. What's the healthiest fruit? The berries. And the healthiest of the berries are wild blueberries. You get them frozen. Sprouts has it. Trader Joe's has it. Costco has it. Whole Foods. Frozen wild blueberries. They're really small, and they're a superfood. So, what do you think of this cartoon? Anybody need help with constipation? Most mornings, Murray likes to jumpstart his digestive system. Humor is healing. So, these are veggie smoothies, some recipes. And with anybody would like a copy, just get your email to Karen, we'll send them to you. It's hard to write all this down. These correct constipation wonderfully. By the way, we define constipation in functional medicine as anything less than 2 bowel movements per day. Ideal is 1 bowel movement per meal. And these veggie smoothies do all sorts of good things for that. There's another smoothie recipe and then ways to modify it. So, this is me making once a week on the weekends, usually Sunday, sometimes Saturday. I get out my cutting boards and I do my veggie smoothies. So, anybody recognize those? They're golden beets. And you see the tops? Guess where those tops go? Right into the blender. What's that? That's Italian parsley. What's that? That's a weird kind of kale. Yeah, a different kind of kale. It's really good. And there's some radishes. There's some kind of something I'm not actually sure what it is. And that's okay. Just throw it in the blender. And this is a small portion. I actually have far more than that. And then, beet juice or pomegranate juice. I throw in for a little bit of flavor, and that boosts nitric oxide. Then that's what it looks like in the blender, the Vitamix. And then I grind it down and I pour it into these glass mason jars. And my goal is to do a mason jar a day. Now that's a lot. I'm always push the limit to find out how far I can do. That is not as much fiber as our ancestors would eat. But I'm trying to get to half what they eat. That's my goal. But if you do even just a pint, that's awesome. So another thing critical, we call these the core 4 nutrient supplements. Multi for the gut, for the brain, omega. These regulate inflammation, blood sugar. They have many different roles. And then it used to be vitamin D. It's no longer vitamin D. It's not safe to take vitamin D as a separate supplement, apart from vitamin K2. You notice now it's K2D3. It's a combo. Why? Because vitamin D increases serum calcium levels. Do you want to calcify the arteries in your brain and heart? Calcify your joints? Calcify your soft tissues and heart valves? No. Vitamin K2 directs the calcium in your teeth and bones, but it does. We could do an hour class on vitamin K2. It's perhaps our most important anti-aging nutrient. These two work together, and they often don't work well properly without being together. Next one, Brain Relax Max. Critical magnesium and cofactors. This alone will help a lot of people with constipation. And then things for inflammation. Many people are inflamed. And then we may add glutathione. Anybody heard of glutathione? It's a master antioxidant. Really important for a lot of people. Not everybody needs it, but when you need it, it's a game changer. Now, probiotics.
I have a question.
Yes.
I thought vitamin D metabolizes calcium.
No. Vitamin D allows you to absorb it.
They have you always take D with calcium.
Vitamin D allows you to absorb the calcium.
Okay.
That's different. Now, supplemental calcium tends to increase the risk of breast cancer in women over age 50. I mean, great studies on that. We have of the 80 plus nutraceuticals I use in practice, I never, ever, ever give calcium as a separate supplement. It increases risk for bad stuff. You get plenty of calcium in your fresh foods if your vitamin D is adequate. And calcium does not help bone loss.
And so the
It's
doctors promote women over 55 to take the extra calcium for bone density.
My doctor friends tell me, how much training did they get in nutrition? Goose egg. Goose egg. They're experts in pharmaceuticals, and I respect that profoundly. They need to be. I probably don't have the courage to prescribe medications and have people die as a result of what I prescribed. I don't think I could handle that personally. And so I want them to be experts. And there are some doctors that go on to become experts in nutrition and supplements and vitamins, and I respect that. But most doctors have zero training. So there's a lot of things we do right now that don't make sense. And so let's go back to probiotics. So beyond probiotics, the problem with the probiotic, like lactobacillus, bifidobacteria, is they have transient effects only. That means they do something while they pass through. Most of them are killed in the stomach acid, or in the bile acid of the small intestine. So the next gen are the spore-based probiotics. Like the megaspore, you can heat this in the oven at 425 degrees, bake it, and it's active. Shelf life of 5 years, non-refrigerated. It survives the stomach acid, all the gut wonderfully, and it takes residence. It reseeds the rainforest really nicely. It helps our body make vitamin K2 internally. And some of the most effective antioxidants known to man, we make them on the inside, in the gut, when we take these things. And then Mega Prebiotic is a therapeutic fiber blend that selectively increases the growth of the really good guys to rebuild the rainforest, called the keystone bacteria. One of them is A. mucin. Remember this mucus layer that gets damaged? It was green in the other picture. A. mucin increased in 5 weeks, or 4 weeks, 8,000% the amount of that being produced. And then Megamucosa is another specialty product we use to regenerate that mucosa when it's damaged. We use specialty amino acids to do that, along with immunoglobulins. So, in wrapping up, if we have a gut problem, people say, well, take a probiotic, or do this or do that. The problem is, it's a puzzle. And think of it like a recipe with 8 ingredients. And if you have one ingredient, let's say you're trying to make your favorite curry, and you use turmeric. Will turmeric alone make your curry wow your guests at dinner? It would be a really interesting meal, wouldn't it? You need all of the ingredients. And then the question is, well, which of these is most important? I would suggest the one that's missing. And it's usually more than one. So we need energy for the gut to work. Obviously, we're talking about the gut itself. The brain has to be, remember in the nervous system, which nerves have to turn on for digestion and gut healing to happen? The parasympathetics, or the green ones. Yep, exactly. Eating smart, if you're living on Diet Pepsi and white bread and Mac and Don, McDonald's and processed foods, we call them ultra-processed, can your gut be healthy? No way. I don't care what you're taking in terms of supplements. Now, supplements, if your vitamin D is low, your gut can't be healthy. If you don't have enough fiber, and all of these things, essential fatty acids and glutathione, and a multiple, foundational. We need exercise. Exercise is critically important for a healthy gut. Too much sitting, sedentary, is harmful. We talked about toxins. They damage the gut, they damage the rainforest, and then this is even beyond peak brain performance. So what we find for many gut problems, one treatment working on one part isn't enough. We need to solve the puzzle. We need the power of synergy, where we put it all together, like a good recipe. So, as we wrap, some people tell me, well, I'm overwhelmed, I give up. I'm just going to stop by Wendy's and have or drive through it, whatever. I'm not very good at this because I probably don't go there. What's a drive-through? Burger King. Okay, I'm going to stop at Burger King for fries, Coke, and a burger just because I'm stressed. So instead of that, if you're going to implement one thing, what would it be? Anybody, any thoughts? Anybody want to share? If you're going to do one thing, maybe I'm going to try to eat more fiber.
veggies.
Yeah, more veggies, more diversity, maybe read labels. Good. And if you like copies of our slides, that's our gift to you. And then our website at brainwellnessaz.com, we have all sorts of things, including this video will be posted on that. And so, and then in the video, you'll see the slides on the recipes as well. And then if you like, get your email to Karen and we'll send those slides. I sent them to you last night, so I'm on the ball. If you'd like to learn more, this is the third edition. I just finished it, 4 weeks ago. 7 Steps to Wellness, completely updated with the microbiome stuff. That is a great starting book, and that's probably the best single book with digestion we talked about. Change Your Brain, Transform Your Life is another one. And then these are the more specialty brain things. And a lot of people with issues here, I can tell you when we solve the puzzle, we can prevent and often reverse cognitive decline for peak brain performance. So, you've been a wonderful group. One of the things that I appreciate is I know you love to learn or you wouldn't be here. And I respect that. And it means growth and change, and so keep up the good work. I'll be around for questions after as well.